So Cam, what we're going to talk about here, this is the route to independence. And you started putting out mixtapes. You had Dipset mixtapes. Talk about what did that teach you? When you think about where you are today, what did that early hand-to-hand combat, mixtapes, doing all that on the grind, what did that teach you from a business perspective with what you're doing right now?
Well, when we started doing mixtapes,
Yeah, you can restore it.
nobody was doing mixtapes that were artists. It was all DJs. So you would be on the DJ's mixtape, SNS, DJ Clue, Ron G, whoever. And we had so much music that we said, let's put out our own mixtapes, because you would have to wait for the label if you wanted to get your artist out there or a DJ to put it on the mixtape and so on and so forth. But what it taught me was to take matters into your own hands.
Oh, it taught you to take matters into your own hands.
Well, I did take matters into my own hands. And then that way I started getting deals for Jim Jones and Joel Santana. Instead of waiting for my project to come out, we started funneling our music through the street. And the process kind of went quicker. But then everybody started doing mixtapes. G-Unit started doing mixtapes. Fabulous. Then they started having mixtape websites. But I didn't want to wait for anybody. We didn't have the tools that we have today. It wasn't any social media. It wasn't any internet. We basically had to go word of mouth and put it in people's hands.
And so word of mouth, you're creating the buzz. This is before you got the deal with Dipset? You doing this in between?
Yes. So basically, I just got signed to Rockefeller. I was leaving Sony, going to Rockefeller, but I knew I wanted to start a movement with the Diplomats. And I knew if I just got to Rockefeller, it was going to take a while to do that, and I didn't want to wait a while. So I started putting my artists on the mixtapes, and then Kevin Lyles, Leo, everybody was like, we love what you got going on. And they ended up doing the deal through Rockefeller. Def Jam, that is.
Dope.
Yeah.
And you understood very early about independent music, not only through putting out mixtapes, but then even when you put artists out through Koch, and everybody was making fun of that, and everybody thought it was not the right thing to do. Koch was actually the future of the music business. Right? So talk to me about that. How did you see that? What part about that did you understand early? You didn't give a fuck about how it looked. You understood the economics. Talk to me about the economics of that.
Right. Well, for those that don't know Koch was a label that was giving artists $6, $7 a record when that was basically impossible. And to be totally honest with you, I have to give the credit to Jim Jones for that. What happened was I had my deal at Rockefeller. Joel's ended up getting a deal at Rockefeller Def Jam, and the Diplomats had a deal at Rockefeller Def Jam. But they didn't want to sign Jim yet, and Jim didn't want to wait. So Jim went out and sorted out Koch. I kind of backed it, say, yeah, we're going to do whatever he wants to do. Work with Michael Koch, Alan Grumblack, and we were starting to get $7, $8 a record when that was basically unheard of.
But by the way, I just got to put this in perspective.
Right.
You're selling a CD for $16.99, and you're getting $8 a record. Everybody else is getting $1.20 a record, maybe.
If that.
Maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
Exactly. If you get that. A lot of times what they do is say that we're going to give you a big advance on your next project. Royalties will take forever to come back. They'll say, so for instance, if you sell 1 million records, they'll give you $1 million to do the next album. And it's like, where's the money from the last fucking album? So Koch wasn't doing that. They was playing ball fair. Then you hear, at this time, you got to realize only people who was doing that was like Master P, Cash Money you hear about. They just getting distribution deals. And Koch ended up giving us a distribution deal. But to be totally honest with you, I got to give the credit to Jim Jones for finding them, because he just didn't want to wait on a major label.
Look, that's right. Give it up to Jim Jones.
Yeah.
And just the vision to do that. So what artists were concerned about, we talked about this earlier, was the quote unquote, the look. I'm signed to this. I'm signed to that. The look was more important than the reality.
Yes.
So you have a great look and you ain't making no motherfucking bread.
It's a fact. My first 2 albums, I was fucked up. I had 2 gold albums and didn't really have any money. And
the first album, Glorious.
Yeah.
I was just playing Glory. Glory's crazy.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Horse and Carriage, Track Masters is here.
Yes.
Horse and Carriage, Fire.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, your producers, or your friends too. But it was a great album. First two albums was great, but I didn't have any money. I was like basically struggling because my thing was once I got to Jersey, I'm like, I'm not going back. So I was doing whatever I had to do to maintain, and it wasn't necessarily even music. So I got my deal at entertainment, unlost his deal, so I had to go straight to Sony by contractual.
How did you get out? I was gonna ask you that. First, anyone who hasn't seen the cover for the sports, drug, and entertainment, you should just look at that creative. It's pretty wild what you did there.
Right.
I thought you got in trouble for doing that. You used the NBA logo on the cover of your...
Yeah, I did. I mean, it was my idea, but the label got sued. I didn't really know the business. You know what I'm saying? You gotta realize in the 90s to get a record deal was a big deal. I was just more happy having a record to be on. I didn't know the business. I didn't know what publishing meant. I didn't know a lot of shit. I was just like, I have a record deal. And then as time goes along, you're like, these motherfuckers is jerking me. You know what I'm saying? At these times, you were signed for 7 albums, which was like standard, 6 or 7 albums. And when you realize on your second album that you're getting jerked around, they're playing with your life.
How did you get out? So you were supposed to go directly to Sony because unlost his deal.
Okay.
And how did you get out? You had on Epic. How'd you get out of the deal at Epic?
So unlost his deal, which was through Epic Sony. Contractually, I had to go straight to Epic if Unever lost his deal. And when I got to Sony, I just realized that they were playing with my money. The marketing money wasn't being spent on marketing. The person who was running marketing had a brand new car. The person who was doing promotions for me, they was going on vacation, et cetera, et cetera. So to be totally honest with you, and I'm not recommending this, I just kept going down there with like 45 niggas every day and making them uncomfortable. And was like, yo, y'all not gonna play in my life like this. No, to Dave McPherson and the rest of his staff. And they just basically let me out because I made them uncomfortable.
They didn't want you around and they didn't want to deal with you anymore.
Like I said, I'm not promoting this. This is an old camera.
He's not promoting violence, ladies and gentlemen.
I just made it very uncomfortable.
But he is promoting taking matters in your own hands.
Yeah, because I signed for a 7-album deal and I was on my second album and I wasn't getting paid, and then they playing with the marketing, promotion, money, etc. And then I started learning the business and I was like, let me get out of this situation. And, you know, basically I know y'all going through your thing, but I knew Damon Dash at the time, and Rockefeller was on top of the world. And I used to hustle for Damon Dash, and I'm like, yo, I need your fucking help. Y'all niggas on top of the world. I need you to help me learn the business. And basically he told Dave McPherson, the guy who was running Sony at the time, you might as well let Kim out this deal because this really isn't going to stop. And then they let me out. That was basically it.
That's incredible.
That's a short story of it.
No, I'm sure there was much more layers to that. It doesn't happen that easy.
Right.
Is there, the one thing I want to talk about, because we spoke about this earlier, that you're hitting on, is that you actually have to be able to write the rhymes and pick the beats and make the songs, but at the same time, no business.
Right.
I mean, and that was like an unheard of thing. Like most artists, they feel like they can just give the business to somebody else.
Right.
Like they don't get caught up in it, and then they look back and they get fucked, and then they blame everybody.
Right.
What would you tell independent artists today about that? Like, is it mandatory that an artist must be able to understand business as well as make music? Is that a must at this point?
I think at this point, they have tools that we didn't have. It wasn't an Instagram. It wasn't the internet. It wasn't social media. Right now, what I'll tell artists is this: labels aren't building artists from the ground up. So they're going off analytics. They'll sit there and say, okay, you have 10 million views on YouTube, or you have 3 million followers on Instagram, or you have 7 million followers as Facebook friends. They don't want you if you ain't got no numbers. Labels are jumping on the bandwagon now because they're not starting artists from the ground up. They're not building them. They rather have somebody with 11 million TikTok views. So if you don't have those views, they don't really want to be bothered with you. So for knowing your business, back to the answer to your original question, You should know your business because by the time a label wants you, you should be making money by now if you figured it out. By the time they want you, they'll be like, I don't really need you. I had a friend, God bless his dad, Mac Miller. He used to come to my house all the time, record, because I had a studio in my house. And he was signed to an independent label, and all these major labels wanted him, but he was already getting $4 or $5 million on tour. He was getting his own independent money on his records. And he's like, Kim, it doesn't make sense to sign to a label. They want to give me $50, $60 million, cool, but I'm making $5, $6 million by myself now. It didn't make sense. And this was probably 10 years ago.
So, you know, one of the things that I had Joe Button up here earlier, and he talked about that same thing. Like, when you sign up front and you give away your name and likeness and you sign yourself away, you're basically betting against yourself. Because if you were betting on yourself, you know for a fact that, you know, you're gonna make the money anyway. So why would you sell yourself when you don't even understand what the price is?
Right.
Right? And today's artist, even back then, we talk about when Cameron, you know, Dipset during that era, you know, 2000s, that you had to find a record, you had to get a record company in order to find an audience. In today's world, because of the internet, you actually find an audience before you find a record company.
Right.
So why the fuck would you give away the money?
Absolutely.
You recently launched It Is What It Is, the most viral sports talk show with Mace. Everybody give it up for that. I mean, that shit.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
You just, like, you have family in the building, you gotta expect.
I don't know them niggas. That's my man, brother, right there, Sub-Z.
You disrupted the entire category of sports media. Talk about that journey and why it made sense to invest in yourself versus working for somebody else. And this is very important. I want you to take your time. This room is filled with people who are podcasters, independent producers, starting record companies, making money on the internet. This came out yesterday in the Wall Street Journal. 12 million people, their full-time job is the creator economy. That's 7% of the entire workforce of America. That's how important this category is of independent creator. You're successful at it. You pivoted from the music business, was at a label, had to get out of a label, went to fucking Rockefeller, all that shit that went over their success and then fucked up shit.
Right.
Boom, boom, boom. Now it is what it is. Please tell everybody where the idea, why you chose Mace, and how you built that up. It's a lot.
It really isn't, to be honest with you. So many people were asking me to do a podcast or be on their podcast or start a podcast. And I was like, I don't want to have to talk to people for a living. Like, I don't want to, like, when you see podcasts, a lot of them, not a lot, but you have to have guests, certain podcasts, I said. And I'd be like, I don't necessarily want to talk to this person for something to go right. If I did something, I would want it to be on my own terms, et cetera. Then at the same time, I just didn't know how big the podcast space was, to be honest with you. I just thought.
You didn't know how big it was at all?
I didn't.
You didn't know if there was money in it? You didn't know what it was?
No, I've seen a lot of people doing it. I'm like, it gotta be something there if this is what they're doing. Like, you know, I see Noriega doing it for a long time. Of course, Joe Button's doing it. I'm like, I know they're not just doing it for fun, but I just didn't really care about it, to be totally honest with you. And I would be on the phone with my friends arguing about sports for like 2-3 hours. By the time I hang the phone up, I'll look at the phone and they'll say 2.5 hours. And I'm like, I've been arguing with this nigga for 2.5 hours about sports. Like, I'll be mad at myself about it. Like, so I'm sitting there saying to myself, one thing that's not going anywhere ever is sports and politics. That's just gonna be around forever. And what I said to myself was that you have these podcasts that do sports, and it's like, and I'm not, there's no disrespect what I'm about to say, but I'll sit there and be like, they'll be like in their living room or their kitchen or something like that, and there'll be good content. And then you got something like ESPN that has a professional setting, but they're talking like, very corporate, very regular. And when you go to these barbershops or the gambling spots or the corners of urban America, anywhere like that, we talk how we talk like, yo, LeBron ain't shit, man. That nigga last night, he fucked my bet up, da, 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 da. And I'm like, that needs to meet, I think. So I built a set in Miami. I bought my own equipment, bought my own cameras. I said, this is what I'll do. I'll have how we talk in the barbershop about sports meet like an ESPN background. I'm gonna wear the suit. I'm gonna build a professional background. And then when we get on here and talk, we're gonna talk how we talk amongst each other when it comes to sports. And that's kind of how I did it. And I said, I'm gonna put up about 250,000, see how it goes. I didn't even have to spend 250,000 before I got my investment back, but that was the number I had in my head. And I said,
You never even went 250 in the hole.
never, no, I didn't even go 250 in the hole. I probably spent 150, maybe about 125, 150 before I got my investment back. And not only that, I'm talking about building a set, buying camera equipment, hiring production, because I took it seriously as far as production was concerned.
You trying to get the ESPN look.
I'm trying
the
to
lighting is critical.
Yes, everything. I was trying to get the production correct. But I want to talk like us. Like when we first aired It Is What It Is, I would see in the comments, people would say, yo, how's ESPN letting Cam talk like this on their network or whatever? But it wasn't ESPN, it was our show. People mistook our set for ESPN. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want. So one day I invited Mace to come on the show because I didn't find a co-host yet. I was just inviting different people that I knew about sports to come on. And Mace came in, for people that don't know our story, me and Mace grew up childhood friends, fell out, didn't speak for 15, 20 years, and then got cool again. And this is a great opportunity to hang out with my friend that I haven't hung out with in years. And when he came on the show a couple of times, he was like, Cam, do you want to go 50-50 on this show? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Because I didn't have a constant co-host yet. He knows sports. He used to play sports as well. And that was pretty much how it happened. We just continually did it 2-3 times a week. And it turned out good. But the one thing that we did want to do to compete is have consistency. So if we're going to compete against SportsCenter, we need to be 5 days a week. If we're going to compete against First Take, if we're going to compete against The Herd, all these top sports shows, we need to be 5 days a week. And now on YouTube, as far as morning shows are concerned, during our time period, we're not on linear television, but just YouTube, the only show that's beating us with numbers is First Take. Like we're ahead of SportsCenter during the time that we come on.
Come on, give it up for that, man.
Come on, thank you.
Give it up for that, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Give it up for that. By the way, he did this right before our very eyes. He did it right before our very eyes in the last year.
Yeah. 1 year, year and a half.
Well, in a year and a half. But it's, the mic is feedback. But the one thing that he said, which is similar to the last conversation, the consistency. Yeah. Joe has 800 shows.
Wow.
He did 800.
One-on-one.
He did 800 shows.
Right.
You can't just do one podcast and look and hope. You got to just keep grinding and keep going. Yeah. Apparently, because that's when it happens.
Right. You talking about 800 episodes?
800 episodes.
Yeah. Well, you got to realize right now, I don't know how long he's been doing it, and Joe Button's cool. I'm just saying, if we're going 5 days a week, this first year, we just said we got to get some vacations next year because we didn't take off for New Year's. We didn't take off for Christmas. We didn't take off for Thanksgiving. We didn't take off anything. We shot all those days. So right now, and we started last March, we're at 580 episodes.
You shot 580? Shit.
Yeah, in a year and a half. Almost 2 years.
Fuck. I'm going to ask you a sports question real quick. What do you think
absolutely.
about Charles Barkley's comment last night on Bronny?
What did he say exactly?
He said they should be in the G League. He shouldn't be playing. You agree he should be in the G League?
I think that it was good to have Bronny on the court with his father just to get it out the way. But I think he should go to the G League as well.
He should be developed and go into the G League.
I think he got, and Bronny's like my nephew, Bron, Rich Paul, those are my brothers. I just think that it's a lot of pressure on him to take some of the pressure off. Go to the G League. You got it out the way. You was on the court with your father. But these people aren't going to respect you until you do something for yourself. Braun as a father did his job. Rich Paul as an agent did his job.
Yeah.
There's nothing else nobody could do but Bronny. And I don't see the fire in his eyes yet to be one of them guys. It may take a while.
I got it. When you look at college sports and how student athletes are finally able to monetize through NIL deals, what notes do you think independent artists should be taking from this? So like now you got kids, I mean, you've gone to the Colorado games, they pushing whips, they doing everything.
Right.
What's your take on that? Because many historical college coaches are now, they think it's ruining the game. They're like leaving, right? Because of the internet. They don't even know how to recruit no more because,
right.
Like, talk to me about that. Just your take on it.
It's like a catch-22 for me because it's college.
That's what you wanted, right? Did you want to go when you came out playing basketball? You wanted to go D1?
I actually had a full-time scholarship to the University of Miami. My senior year, we went 23-0, lost the first round. I never went back to school. So they sent me to a junior college in Navarro, called Navarro Junior College in Texas, like the #1 junior college in the country. But I kicked out of there, and then I ended up getting a deal the next year when I was like 19 years old, so I never went back to sports. But as far as NIL is concerned, it's like a catch-22 because kids are getting money, and then that may not make them as hungry as they should be. But these colleges, football for instance, they got a $6 billion TV deal for NCAA football for the next 6-7 years, and the kids aren't eating off any of that. Then you're making all this money, and you got to try and figure out how to pay them, and they never figured it out. So NIL was supposed to be a way to say, okay, you could go get money on your own, and then don't ask us for anything. Mm-hmm. I think it's two things for me personally. And one of my co-hosts on my show, Maurice Claret, who's went to Ohio State, he made a great point. Some of these athletes are gonna make it to the professionals. So you sit there and say, okay, you're getting $2-3 million now from Nike or from Cadillac or whatever, and that may be their last money as an athlete because they may not be good enough to go to the NFL or go to the NBA or go overseas. So at least when you go in the next phase of life, that you're leaving with a couple dollars because everybody's not going to make it to be a professional. Yeah. So if you could make a couple $100,000 or $1 million or $2 million and then sit there and use whatever degree you go get, that'd be great because everybody's not going.
I get it. Mm-hmm. So you personally, you've been in business with Reebok to Kith to now, Underdog Fantasy Sports. You're an entrepreneur. You're Pink Power, right?
Yeah.
How should artists be looking at brand partnerships to elevate their status beyond just getting the bag? Like, it's the bag, and then like, how should you look at what partners you choose to elevate your status? This is to artists out there who are looking for partnerships and to work with brands.
It's a great question, man. So I'm going through that.
How do you make your decision? Like when you get phone calls all the time. You were calling me.
I was just about to say I call you to ask you for your advice. A lot of times I call you about 2-3 times a month to ask you for your advice. We're going through that now because our contract is almost up with our partner and
free agent.
Yeah.
Alert.
Yeah, Underdog Fantasy, our gambling partner is almost up, and there's so many people that offered other deals. So for instance, if you have a gambling deal with Underdog Fantasy, you can't do another gambling deal with DraftKings or Prize Picks or anything else. But you could do a deal with Cadillac. And once you do a deal with Cadillac, you can't do Mercedes, whatever brand or not brand, like if it's gambling, no more gambling, cars, no more cars. And shout out to Underdog Fantasy, they gave us so much money that we didn't have to run any other ads. So that deal is almost up. So now I'm sitting there saying, I'm not sure we're going to re-sign with them, but we have to figure out how to navigate that for the show so we run ads without watering the show down too much.
Talk about that. We should definitely talk about that.
Right. So that's a great question. I'm still figuring that part out.
That's a big question right there.
Because right now on our show, we probably got 1 or 2 commercials. We don't want to sit there and turn it into 500 commercials during the show, because that, to me, that waters it down. But if you could get 2, 3, 4 ads, that's good. But we can sit here and milk the game and talk for 45 seconds and do 5 minutes worth of commercials and make $1 billion, but that's not what I want to do.
I want to talk to you more on your business, man.
Yeah.
You did New York, you and the Locks did New York a great favor with that versus battle. It was amazing. It was amazing. But I want to talk to you about the business involvement. The Locks said that you led negotiations for both you and the Locks.
Yeah.
I mean, what was your role? What made you take that position? Like, your peers today, man, Cam, you do it for both of us. Talk about that. That's fly shit.
Thank you. They beat the shit out of us in the verses, but I didn't want to do the fucking verses, man. The way the verses went like this, Steve, I had a tour for us lined up, for the Locks and Dipset, literally lined up. And it was about, at the time, maybe like $2.5 million, if I'm not mistaken. You know, this was a few years ago. And they wanted to, Jim really wanted to do the verses. And I'm like, bro, we can do the verses after the tour. And they're like, nah, they're gonna be in Madison Square Garden, let's do it now. I'm like, yo, if we do this now, it's gonna fuck the tour up. Mm-hmm. So Swiss called me from Versus, of course. They ran me some raggedy ass numbers. And I'm like, yo, Swiss, what are you talking about right now? What the fuck do you mean? This is for 6 artists. Because you gotta realize there's 3 people, well, 4 artists.
All right, he was hitting you with the promo. Do it for promo.
Nah, fuck promo, Steve. There's a tour lined up. We had a tour for $2.5 million. There's 7 artists got to get paid. So they had like 100. He said the best we could do is like 125,000 for 7 people. Y'all, and I got $2.5 million waiting, and that was just for like 10 cities. It could have ballooned up to like $6 million. So then they called me back. Swiss calls me back and was like, yo, I'm not gonna tell the real numbers after I tell you that. He calls me back, well, I could do this. And I'm like, nah, bro, that still ain't matching what I got going on. Then Jada called me, he was like, yeah, Kim, I knew you get the number higher, talking about verses. And I'm like, it ain't the tour money though. I got outvoted, Steve. Nobody was fucking listening to me about the tour. They all sitting here worried about the verses. So what I said to myself was, I told Swiss and Timberland, I said, I want to tell everybody, now more of the story, I said, everybody, I'm not going to say the number, everybody got to get at least 6 digits. That's an artist, minimum. So he was like, yo, we can't do it. I said, well, I'm not doing it. Then they came back and got everybody 6 digits. So they ended up giving, the Locks their money, Dipset their money. So then after that, the people who was doing the tour was like, well, we'll let you know if we can still do the tour after this, because I got outvoted. So I got everybody their money, and I started piling my own shit. Like, I want the door money, I want stocks and Triller, I want beats from Timberland and Swiss for free. I want percentage of the views that's gonna go on, and I got all that shit too. Afterwards,
come on. Come on.
And then
this is the guy you want negotiating on your behalf.
Yeah. Then we did the verses, we lost, and they canceled the tour. Nobody was listening. Only one who benefited after verses was Jadakiss. He probably got the same money that he would have got on tour afterwards.
That's what I said to him. I said that one verse was like an album.
Yeah, shout out to Jay, that's my guy.
But
thank them for letting me do it, man. That was a pleasure, because Triller was gonna get all that fucking money and then niggas wasn't eating it. A lot of people, don't get me wrong, do it for the culture, do it for the culture. Who's eating off the culture? There's some niggas back there eating off, and we all saying do it for the culture, and niggas is back there eating off the culture, and you're not getting what you're supposed to get.
Motherfucking right.
Word.
What's some of the biggest differences you notice between the podcast industry and the music industry?
Some of the biggest differences?
The biggest differences, or is there any difference?
See, for me, I ain't gotta do shit but go to work every day. Like, I don't have to talk to nobody. I mean, I have to run my production company and people to do it, but it's no label, it's no clearing a sample, it's no getting beats from somebody. I can sit here and call my friends in the sports world, get inside information, watch sports, talk to Mason, Stat Baby for 30 minutes to go over topics, and and go to work. Like, to me, it's way easier because it isn't like with music. You have to, for me anyway, as if you're an artist, you have to be creative. You got to find the beat. You got to pay for the studio. You got to play the sample. If you're a CEO, when you have an artist, all your artist problems become your problems. That's why I don't really deal with artists like I used to. Because as soon as you sign an artist, they be cool, and then they're about to get kicked out their house. And then they need money for this and need money for that. And I'm like, I did that already. I gotta take care of my son and my family and everything else. I don't mind taking artist problems in with me, but I'm past that point right now. And especially like I told you with all the technology, should be figuring out how to get yourself popping so that I would want to, somebody like myself would want to work with you. But as far as the differences, podcasting to me is easy. You just get up and talk about what information you know I have instead of all the other stuff.
All you
music.
beef with athletes every other day.
I mean, I don't be beefing. You know what I noticed that
Be beefing with. I think they're doing it to get hot.
no, that's part of it.
I
but
think that's why else would they do it?
you know what I really think, Steve, is that when it comes to athletes that's arguing with me, in case y'all don't know, a bunch of athletes be mad at me because I'll say the same thing that ESPN would say or Fox Sports would say. But I just realized, I just had this conversation probably 2-3 days ago. I think because I'm in the culture of hip hop, it means more when I say
For sure.
that you ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to when somebody else says you're not good. And they get offended by it. But when I explain to them too, this is all barbershop talk. This is what they saying around you, about you around the world. I'm just speaking for urban America on my platform.
That's
Go
dope.
to Speedy for the intro bass wag and do the bass wag performance.
A little bit go back in the past.
And then hopefully
Paid in
after that,
full. Undeniable cult classic.
Thank
Your
you.
portrayal of Rico leaving a major imprint. Right? Come on.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
How did that opportunity come about, and what made you certain that you could play that role? I mean, that's you from Harlem. To play that role is you can't fuck that up. That shit is
Yeah.
critical.
No, you're
How'd
right.
you know you were perfect to play that role?
I'm
Did
from-
you act before that? Like, was that?
No, it's my first son. I just I knew the story because I'm from Harlem. It's like before the movie comes out, everybody kind of knows that story. And when I got the audition, I just read every night for like a week, reading my lines and everything. And then of course Dame Dash, Jay-Z, and they was executive producers of the film as well. And I just took my lines seriously. And when I went to do the part, it's funny. So I'm reading the lines, like me and you are sitting here.
Yeah.
And I'm reading my lines across from whoever was reading the lines. And there was a part where Alpo or Brico, whatever you want to call them, pulled a gun out. And I pulled out a real gun and was like, yo, and read the line. And Dane was like, hold the fuck up, what's going on? And I was like, I need this part, my nigga. So they said, cut Cam, come back here. You're taking this a little too far. I said, I just really want the part. And they ended up giving me the part. But to be totally honest with
So
you,
the same way you got out your Sony deal is how you got that.
now this wasn't a bully situation. I just want them to know how to part. But to be totally honest with you, I have to give a lot of credit to Charles Stone. He's the director of that movie. And they shot a lot of that movie in Canada for people that don't know, in Toronto, because the landscape is still the same. But the lines was trash. And I would tell him, I'm like, yo, niggas in Harlem ain't saying this, my nigga. He like, Cam, this is what we'll do. Read the lines, and then we'll do another take and say it like they were saying in Harlem. And 80% of the movie, from my part,
Your character.
is improv. The lines I would say, not really the script, because the lines in the script was trash. Like, if I called the nigga Kermit the Frog, that wasn't in the script. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a lot of stuff that wasn't in the script that I was just improvising because whoever wrote the script, and not AZ, you know, they changed the script
Yeah,
around.
fun.
It was terrible. But Charles Stone knew that, and he gave me the opportunity to
But
do a lot of improv.
You worked with so many talented actors in that movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and for you to be a new actor and play a lead like that, that's dope.
And they helped me out too with Wood Harris and Makai Fife, and they did a lot of input, gave me a lot of input and a lot of help as well. So thank those guys.
So Kim, I ain't gonna keep you. My last question here is, what's one piece of advice you wish you'd known as a young artist to break out of Harlem that you think today's independent artists should hear?
Say that one more time.
One piece of advice that you as a young artist in Harlem, you wish you could look back that you could give advice to a young artist today.
The advice that I would give right now is two things, because somebody will sit here and tell you, you know, follow your dreams, and if you believe in something, go for it, absolutely. But don't go so far to where your bills catch up with your dreams and then you in the hole and shit. Because sometimes your mother tell you you can sing, but you can't sing because it's your mother. She gonna tell you that you're the best singer in the world.
Yeah.
You gotta get outside advice and see what's real and what's not real. One thing for sure, when I used to write rhymes or do songs, I would have a room full of people, and people not gonna kiss my ass or yes man or anything. I may love the song. If 10 people tell me the song is trash, I may curse them out and get mad, but I'm not gonna put the song out.
Mm-hmm.
So the best advice that I could give you is don't sit here and don't not believe in yourself, but just make sure it's realistic at the same time, because a lot of us think we could do more shit than we could really do. But get a good team around you, get some good friends around you, and see how far your situation could go.
Well, listen, while you're here, I want to tell you, man, I am, again, so fucking proud of you. You've
Thank
done
you,
New
man.
York proud, man.
Nah, thank
You've
you,
done
bro.
New York proud. Everybody give it up for Cameron.
Thank you, man.
Kill him.